Welcome into a brand new Wednesday live edition of the Desmond Johnson Show here on Tobacco Road Sports Radio, tobaccoroadsportsradio.com. Desmond Johnson, your host. I'm here in the house with Matt Alquiza from Sports Illustrated, working the Charlotte Hornets beat online. The NBA trade deadline is tomorrow, Thursday at 3 p.m. We're going to hit you with everything that's going on up to that point. Big trade happened last night while you were asleep, so you might not even be aware of that. That'll affect your Charlotte Hornets. The Hornets taking on the Milwaukee Bucks tonight on the Hornets radio network that you can actually hear, powered by Tobacco Road Sports Radio here in the Triad on WWBG 1470 AM. So you can hear that game live later on tonight here in the Triad. But let's get into these trades. Luka is a Laker. Let's figure this out. Let's figure this out together as a family. It's this is the Desmond Johnson Show. Oops.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
Yeah, welcome to the Carolinas. Everywhere you go, the sky is Carolina blue, the finest. Live action, feedback, the city need that. I've been number one, no cap. Here's the recap. Adrenaline is my addiction. I'm about to relapse. Step on the turf if you won't and get your weed wet. I'm going harder than a martyr on the slaughter end. It's the heart of man, that's a rap like a cardigan. I'm breaking records, it's fourth in inches, I count the seconds. The over-under's my roar of thunder, my secret weapon. Yeah, the game is to be told. I don't break, I break modes. Follow me on Tobacco Road.
Live with Desmond Johnson, son, the live is one. Represent NC to the fullest.
And this is the Desmond Johnson Show live on a Wednesday here in the Triad, tobaccoroadsportsradio.com. I'm your host, Desmond Johnson, joined by Matt Alquiza from the Hornets on SI beat, covering the Charlotte Hornets for Sports Illustrated. What's going on, Matt? How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, Des. Happy to be here. How are you?
I'm good. I'm confused, but I'm good. It's Super Bowl week. We'll have our Super Bowl preview, I believe, on Friday. The host from Winning the Division over on our Keep Pounding podcast network, former NFL tight end Ben Troop and host Ryan Smith will be joining me to go through all things Super Bowl. So we'll get through all that on Friday right before the weekend gets here. I wanted to touch on the NBA and what's going on because really, honestly, at the beginning of this season, the NBA was kind of catching some flack for lower ratings, wasn't a whole lot going on, yada, yada, yada. And then with a swift couple of things over the weekend, the NBA kind of stole some headlines from the NFL during this week, this lull in between conference championship weekend and Super Bowl weekend. Let's just get into it. Luka, AD. Of course, everyone's shocked by the deal, but the Lakers acquire Luka Doncic from the Mavericks, part of a 3-team trade. Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a first-round pick go to Dallas. The Jazz were involved in this. The Lakers also received Maxi Kleber and Markieff Morris from Dallas. The Jazz will get Jalen Hood-Schifino and a 2025 second-round pick from the Lakers and a 2025 second-round pick from the Mavericks. How did they get Luka without having to give up a first? Well, was that the Lakers' first-round pick going to Dallas? I'd assume it's just one, right?
Yeah, I think 2029 Lakers first-round pick.
So my question is, how did they only have to give up one first-round pick where we just saw Rudy Gobert go for 5, like a couple of years ago to Minnesota? Or what was the one? Paul George, like seven first-round picks for Paul George or something like that. Literally built Oklahoma City to this day. How in the world did they pull this off in LA?
Yeah, man. It's all I've thought about nonstop since the trade dropped at whatever that was, 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. I think the real crux of it and everything that people are saying and everything that you read is that Nico Harrison, the Mavs GM, has had a long time relationship with Anthony Davis, and he is just a huge fan of his game, thinks that Anthony Davis is really the main piece that's going to keep Dallas in contention in 2025 and the next couple of years while he's still under contract. So they've been friends for a long time because of Nike. They built a relationship through the Olympics, the whole deal. So yeah, Nico Harrison really decided to swing this deal because he was getting Anthony Davis back in it. So he's looking at building a championship roster around a great defense and Anthony Davis as the defensive anchor alongside the 2 centers they already have. So yeah, Anthony Davis is the main part of the deal. I think about it if Anthony Davis were to be traded, how many first-round picks would he be worth? What, 4 or 5 on his own? So
at least
you consider Yeah, you consider AD is worth 4 or 5 first-round picks. The Lakers threw another first-round pick in there later on, so I think that's where that kind of makes up the value that a guy like Mikal Bridges was traded for. Like you said, Rudy Gobert, Paul George was traded for, but I mean, it's an incredible deal for the Lakers. I mean, they set up their future for the next 10 years with a 25-year-old, 5-time first-team All-NBA, best, arguably a top 3 player in the world for Anthony Davis and a first-round pick, basically.
And I was trying to think about this. I was with David Glenn yesterday for the show, and we were trying to think about this in our mind. Brendan Marks from The Athletic joined us as well, and it's like, I can't think of a trade in any of the 4 major sports where 2 top 10 players currently, like current top 10 players, are traded mid-season. Like, you might get something where it's lopsided, and like Anthony Davis goes to the Lakers for a bunch of draft picks and spare parts, or something to that effect. But you don't get this guy for this guy, and to make it work, we'll do the stuff in the middle. But it's mainly Luka for Anthony. And I think I don't agree with him hardly ever, but Nick Wright actually was on a podcast or something yesterday, and he was like, so basically, in effect, the Lakers gave up like Lonzo Ball, Josh Hart, all the picks that went to the Pelicans for Anthony Davis, and a first-round pick for Luka Doncic, basically, in the end. Like, that's basically, and they got a championship out of it. So, like, that's kind of what they did. And they actually did it in a manner where it made me feel like this is LeBron's last year. Because that move is definitely not a move for LeBron. That's a move for the Lakers, like their future. What do you think about watching LeBron still going, still playing full games back-to-back and everything else at age 41, year 21 in the league? Do you think this might be LeBron's last year after the moves that the Lakers just made here? And I don't think the Lakers are even done. They might make something. They might be doing something right now. The deadline's tomorrow.
Yeah,
so.
It feels like trades are happening every 10 minutes right now. So while we're on here, who knows what's going to drop? But I think LeBron has one more year in him. I'm not concerned at all about the idea of Luka and LeBron playing together. You know, there's people, let's talk about, there's only one ball. They're both primarily ball handlers. We've seen LeBron in the last couple of years kind of take a little bit more of a backseat to Austin Reeves, runs the offense a lot. The Lakers were here in Charlotte a few nights ago. Anthony Davis handled the ball a lot. So I think LeBron will have no problems moving off the ball. I think getting Luka is honestly going to extend LeBron's career a little bit because he's not going to have to carry this massive offensive weight that he has had to do. I mean, really his entire post-Miami career. So yeah, I don't think this is LeBron's last year. I think he's going to love playing with Luka, the kind of guy who can match his basketball IQ, the kind of guy that sees the game, sees the floor the same way he does. So I think we'll get one more year of LeBron, and we'll get 18 months of LeBron and Luka playing together in a Lakers uniform.
So that the Luka deal feels like more of a, well, I don't know, it really depends on how much LeBron plays the second half of the season, the last 25 games or so that they've got. He's been playing at all-star level. So him and Luka together.
3-point triple-double on Saturday, and they traded for Luka an hour later. Dominated the Knicks on Saturday night, and then you get Luka Doncic to play with you for the rest of your career, man. It's unbelievable.
And it was like the Lakers, I think, are the 5th seed right now in the West. It's kind of course, the West is always jumbled up. A bad week can drop you into the play-in, but a good week can put you up in the top 3 or 4. But the Lakers are in a prime position to stay out of the play-in, and depending on how well LeBron and Luka mesh, we can see. Meanwhile, Dallas might have created one of the tallest front lines in NBA history with this move, because now you've got Anthony Davis, Daniel Gifford, and what's his name from Duke?
Derek
Lively. So you've got literally 3 7-footers that you can kind of rotate in and out, which is what made, to be honest, that's what, to me, watching the run Dallas had last year to the finals, that's what separated them. Like, they literally built the team designed to beat Denver, really, in my mind, like with the size and being able to combat Joker. But once you beat Denver, it was like, well, nobody else has the size, like collectively, except for maybe Minnesota. And like they kind of rode that in the tandem of Irvin and Doncic to the finals. And Luka was honestly a little like Luka was hurt in the finals, where he just wasn't moving the way he normally moves. What do you feel about Dallas with all this? Because it feels like this move is a Dallas saying we're ready to win this year. Like, we were in the finals last year. Anthony Davis can get us over the hump. The GM's talking, defense is going to win for us. So why not go get one of the best defensive players in the league? And AD feels like he's been in the league for 20 years. He's 31. So he's kind of technically hitting his prime now, like for NBA players. What are your thoughts on Dallas after this trade?
Yeah, I mean, I hate it for Dallas. You hear all these people talking about, this is Dallas making a move to win now. Like, they won last year. I mean, they were in the NBA Finals 8 months ago. Like,
Yeah.
you cannot tell me that swapping Luka Doncic for Anthony Davis makes them a better team right now, because we saw them 3 wins away from winning an NBA title as they were currently constructed. So I think Dallas is going to be fine. And the other thing I think about is, Minnesota was kind of the bullies of the West last year. They had the Naz Reid, Rudy Gobert, giant front court. And what did we see in the Western Conference Finals? Luka Doncic getting those big guys on a switch and cooking them for 40 points, hits the game winner over Rudy Gobert. I think it's game 3 or 4. So size is great until you have a guy like Luka or a guy like LeBron that is big enough to like play against that size, but also smart enough, fast enough, good enough of a ball handler to beat that size on the perimeter. So, I mean, they traded a guy that cooked these giant lineups in throughout the Western Conference playoffs last year to the Lakers. And I'm going to be fascinated if we somehow get a Mavericks Lakers playoff series to see what Luka does against Lively and Gafford and Davis, because he's one of the most dangerous guards in the league when he gets switched on to a big man. And he's going to be seeing red the whole time he plays against Dallas, right? Like, he is going to want to, stab a dagger through the Mavericks every chance he has possible.
The storyline literally writes itself. As soon as you said it, we're going to get a Mavericks Lakers series somewhere here along this year. There's no way around it at this point. Matt Alquiza joining us here from the Hornets on SI Beat. You can follow him on X at Alquiza8. Let's go a little bit more around the league. A couple of days ago, actually, this one, because of the Luka AD trade, this one kind of fell under the cracks, but I thought this was super big. The Spurs trading for De'Aaron Fox, getting him out of Sacramento, where he'd spent his whole 8-year career up to this point. 3-team trade sends Zach LaVine from Chicago back to Sacramento. In addition to Fox, the Spurs got Jordan McLaughlin. The Kings got City Sissoko, and 3 future first-round picks in 25, 27, and 31. 3 future second-round picks, 25 and 2 in 2028. The Bulls get Zach Collins, Trey Jones, Kevin Huerter, and a 2025 first-round pick. The main story coming out of this is that you're getting De'Aaron Fox, who, if I read correctly, he's one of only a couple of players to have averaged 25 and 5 assists over a 5-year stretch or something like that. I can't remember the exact stat, but he's been kind of buried in Sacramento. And now you take him to San Antonio, pair him with Wemby for the next 5-7 years or whatnot. How scary can San Antonio be with this working out? Because I'd imagine this is going to move Chris Paul to the bench, I would think, and have him coming off and run a second unit, which would be the best for the team. But what are you thinking about San Antonio right now as they're kind of compiling their core for the future?
Yeah, I think the scariest thing about San Antonio is that they're not done yet. It probably won't be this trade deadline, but the next time like a wing player gets disgruntled, San Antonio is still loaded with first-round picks, loaded with young players to make a move for a guy. Like, imagine Jaylen Brown is tired of being second banana in Boston and he requests a trade in the coming years. Like, San Antonio is perfectly positioned to make a move for a guy like that to add to that core because they're still so young. Like, they traded for Fox, and they gave up a handful of first-round picks. One of those is from Charlotte that's going to convey into a couple of second-rounders in the coming years. So San Antonio didn't really give up a ton to get Fox. So I think it's a great move for San Antonio, and it makes them even scarier because they're still poised to do, another massive deal down the line to pair Wemby and Fox with another wing who can, really elevate them to this upper echelon in the West. Right now, I still think they're like play-in, borderline playoff team with Fox and Wemby, but they're a move away from dominating the West for the next 10 or 15 years like we saw them do throughout the entire 2000s.
You say a wing. The biggest name out there that's a wing that we know of that's available is Miami Heat's Jimmy Butler, but I don't know if the time frame works in terms of his age and the age of the core in San Antonio. Yeah. I'm hitting refresh here because I don't know if Jimmy Butler's going to get traded while we're live on the air here with the deadline being tomorrow at 3:00. Yesterday, the Sixers added Quentin Grimes and the deal with the Mavericks. The Mavericks still moving things around. They got him in a second-round draft pick from the Mavericks for Caleb Martin, a name many people around here will find familiar. We're going to circle back. We're going to put a pin in that, circle back around to that in just a second. This morning, I wake up to the Washington Wizards trading off Kyle Kuzma to the Bucks, for Chris Middleton. Milwaukee also sent AJ Johnson and a pick swap to Washington. The Wizards also get Patrick Baldwin Jr. and a second-round pick from the Bucks. How surprised were you that the Bucks traded Chris Middleton? He's literally a Milwaukee legend at this point. Helped them win the 2021 NBA championship. Has been there throughout the core of this run they've had with Giannis. Were you surprised to see them move off of Middleton for what they got back?
Yeah, not super shocked. I mean, they've been talking about, I've heard there's been rumors about Middleton getting moved for the last couple of days, whether that's in a move that lands Bradley Beal in Milwaukee. They've been, kind of on the periphery of the Jimmy Butler talks. So I'm not super surprised to see them move Middleton. What this tells me is that they know that Middleton's legs don't have any miles left on them. He's been out in and out the last couple of years with knee injuries, ankle injuries. So to move him for a guy like Kyle Kuzma, who can, produce at the same level as Jimmy Butler can in 2025, but he's a little bit younger. He'll be fresh come playoff time. He doesn't have those miles on his body like Middleton does. It makes a lot of sense. And apparently there was some intel this afternoon that Giannis signed off on the deal, and Giannis really wanted them to bring Kuzma to Milwaukee. So I think they have to keep Giannis happy. I could see he is one of the guys on the list that I could see asking for a trade in the coming years if the Bucks don't make it too far in the playoffs, either 2025 or 2026. Giannis has said from day one that he's here to win NBA championships, and if Milwaukee is not a situation where he can do that, I would not be shocked if we were looking at a Giannis Wemby front court.
I wasn't even thinking that. I was thinking LA. I was thinking him and Luka.
LA, Houston, Oklahoma is like a Shea Giannis duo in a couple of years. I mean, those teams have all of the cap space, all of the future picks to make a deal for a guy like Giannis if he gets disgruntled in Milwaukee. So they have to make these moves to placate him right now in order to keep him in Milwaukee long term.
So we do all that to circle back around to our woeful Charlotte Hornets, who have won 12 games all this season, and I'm seeing here that that the Bucks may not be done, that they might be actually zeroing in on the Martin twins. That's why I was saying we were going to circle back to this. Dallas just traded for Caleb Martin, but it looks like Dallas might move him off to Milwaukee, and I'm seeing here where Milwaukee may be eyeing Charlotte's Cody Martin. Each of them make less than Pat Connaughton's $9.4 million salary, according to Jake Fisher on Twitter off the Hornets Reddit. But anybody on the Hornets roster, the way it's constructed right now, obviously they're probably going to be in a selling. Well, I don't know. They haven't really done a whole lot. What do you think the Hornets are trying to do here? Because on one hand, I feel like we go through 1 week, they'll win like 2 straight or something. I'm like, what are they doing? Like, they need to calm down. And then the next week, like LaMelo's out for 3 weeks and like half the bench is not playing or half the team's not playing, and they're losing to the Wizards by like double figures or whatnot. Like, what are they doing? Are they trying to tank, or are they messing up tanking? Like, I can't figure out exactly what their end game is here.
No, I mean, I don't like using the word tanking. I think Charlotte is making some strategic plays in order to stay in the bottom 3 of the draft. So I'm not saying that they're holding guys out for injuries, but if LaMelo Ball rolls his ankle, what's the point of rushing him back to play a meaningless quote unquote meaningless Monday game against the Wizards, right? So yeah, I don't think Charlotte is necessarily tanking. I think they know that this is a lost season due to all the injuries they've had. I mean, Grant Williams, Miles Bridges, 2 of their top 5 players already lost for the season. I think they have their eyes on Cooper Flagg in the 2025 draft right now, and they should. I mean, they have this first round lottery protected pick, so they need to add players to this core. The best place to do that is in the draft. You want to maximize your chances at landing top 3 pick, so you got to do what you got to do to make that happen.
And I'm so glad you mentioned that part, because I think those that follow the NBA from afar, they have a general idea of the rules in the draft and how that worked, the lottery and everything else. They changed the rules a little bit a year or 2 ago, where to prevent tanking, basically at the end of the year, where teams are just throwing out G League players pretty much to try to get the number 1 pick. They made it where they flatten the odds for the bottom 3, correct? So Charlotte doesn't have to finish with the worst record in the league in order to get the number 1 pick overall. And as a North Carolina Tar Heel fan, after watching Duke obliterate Carolina on Saturday and literally watch Cooper Flagg kind of do like 5 positions at once for like the entire game, I'm just kind of sitting back like, yeah, I hate Duke and everything they stand for, but this dude is literally what the Hornets need. Like he's literally like a video game character. Like if you were playing NBA 2K24 or whatever, and you could build a character to slide into the Charlotte Hornets starting lineup, he would look like Cooper Flagg. Like he would do all the stuff Cooper Flagg does. He's a facilitator. He can play defense. He can score. He can line it up. He can shoot from outside. He can get into the paint. He can draw double teams. He can literally be that glue stretch four guy that Charlotte does not really have, and would allow them to put Miles at the 3 where he's a more natural position. You can put Brandon Miller at the 2, which would make more sense, and it gives you a 6'9" backcourt with him and LaMelo Ball, which would be, if I'm not mistaken, probably the tallest in the league between the two. And Mark Williams in the paint, who was playing really well when he finally did get on the floor. If it's not him, if it's not Flagg, who else is there in this year's draft? Because I'm sure at this point you've started to wander over to, well, what can the Hornets get here? If they land here or there. If it's not Flagg, who else do you think would be worthy of Charlotte picking in the top 3 that could fit the same position that Flagg can do? Or is there a player like that?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a player like Flagg. Obviously, he's the bona fide number 1 pick with a bullet at this point. So there's 2 guys who I've kind of keyed in on as potential Charlotte Hornets. Ace Bailey plays for Rutgers. He's someone who's kind of been in the news for a long time. Really hyped up high school prospect. He's a long 6'9" wing scorer, kind of in the mold of Kevin Durant with his jump shot. Like shoots it really high. But all he can do is score. He's not going to give you any sort of playmaking. He's going to be a bit of a liability on defense, but he is a bucket. I mean, that is his calling card, is putting the ball in the hoop, which the Hornets need. I think they have the 2nd or 3rd worst offense in terms of net rating in the NBA, so they need guys who can score. And Ace Bailey would, add a little punch to their starting lineup when it comes to bucket getting. And another guy, BJ Edgecombe from Baylor. He's a guy that you're going to want to watch, towards conference tournament, NCAA tournament time. He's more of a 2, but he's a super athletic wing. His jump shot is developing a lot at Baylor as a freshman. Kind of in the mold of like a young Victor Oladipo. There, I can see a little bit of Anthony Edwards light in his game because he's not super tall, but he is crazy athletic and has a good jumper. So those are the 2 guys. If Charlotte doesn't land at number 1 and win the Cooper Flagg sweepstakes, if they're at 2, 3, 4, those are 2 guys that I could see Charlotte bringing in. And Edgecombe specifically, he's got really great defensive metrics on the wing, and he just feels like the kind of guy that Jeff Peterson and Charles Lee would want to bring in here because he's a legitimate 2-way player at 18 years old.
So hopping off of Charlotte for a second and getting back into, which I guess would be the number 1 question going into the trade deadline at 3:00 tomorrow on Thursday, and that would be Jimmy Butler. Like I can't see Jimmy Butler being a Miami Heat player active after Thursday. They pretty much said, look, just stay home and we'll figure this out. Both sides, it's just crumbled to the point where it's not going to be salvageable. You're not going to bully Pat Riley into anything. So it's, and you're not
going to bully Jimmy the other way. Like those are 2 very, very headstrong individuals that are.
We kind of knew it was going to eventually end like this. Like we knew it was going to, like, because Jimmy, it's ended like this everywhere he's been. Like literally, it's kind of exploded, and he's had to go someplace else. So really, my question to you, because of that history with Jimmy at Minnesota and Philadelphia, and now in Miami, who wants to take him on? Because I think he's 35, if I'm not mistaken. He's won an extension. That's the whole basis of this whole thing. The Heat are like, no, we're not giving it to you. It'd be like a $60 million a year type extension. We're just not going to do it. This is the franchise that didn't pay Dwayne Wade, like at the end. Like, why would they pay you? So it's like, I'm trying to figure this out. Where does he land? Like, where's the best spot for Jimmy Butler in terms of trying to win a championship? If that's his goal. If his goal is to win a championship, I guess it's a different question. If he's trying to win a championship, where's the best place to go? If he's just trying to make money, where's the best place for him to go?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Miami's not going to pay him. I don't know who is going to. So when it comes to money, I have no clue, like who is going to pay Jimmy Butler this extension that he's looking for. But I think if he wants to win a championship in 2025, I think he's either needs to go to Memphis, which he doesn't want to. He would slot him perfectly with Memphis. He is like the perfect Memphis guy. I think grit and grind from a couple of years ago. Is there more grit and grind wing in the league right now than Jimmy Butler? I think Golden State apparently has been talking about adding Jimmy Butler. He doesn't want to sign an extension there. The only place he's keyed in on Phoenix. I mean, that's the place he wants to go, where I think he could win right now. Probably not a championship, but if they can keep Kevin Durant and bring in Jimmy Butler, that would elevate their ceiling a little bit. But they're the ones who would pay him, apparently. He would go to Phoenix. He would sign an extension there. But I don't know. I mean, everything I'm reading this morning now is like there's like ideas of a 3-team deal where Butler would go to Phoenix. They would send Kevin Durant to Golden State, and then Golden State would send a package of Jonathan Kuminga and a bunch of picks to Miami in a 3-team deal. And that's from everything that I'm reading from all of the really plugged in NBA insiders this morning. It kind of seems like that is the most likely way this all ends up, is with Jimmy in Phoenix, Kevin Durant in Golden State, and then a package of picks and young players go to Phoenix and Miami to compensate them for that.
Y'all see how Matt just kind of threw that in the room right at the very end. It's like, oh, by the way, Kevin Durant might go back to Golden State, and something along those lines. But
yeah, I mean.
So
listen, after Luka Doncic gets traded for Anthony Davis, I'm willing to believe any rumor in the world. I mean, I have no reason to think that anything is off the table at this point, because that just shook the whole league up.
The players were Kevin Durant was like, well, the first thing I thought was nobody's safe. Like, I mean, literally anybody can get traded like right now, and it seems like that might be setting up for today and tomorrow. Really, it's going to be tonight. It's going to be sometime after the games are played, around midnight or something. Something's going to drop, because I've been seeing a situation where Golden State was trying to get Durant and LeBron. They were trying to get both of them to pair up with Steph for like one run or whatever. But if they could just get Durant back and pair him with Curry, with Green still there, and if it depends on what they're able to keep out of their core, their young core, from their failed experiment of let's keep the old guys and let's bring up the new guys at the same time, like Kuminga, like you said. It kind of depends on what they're able to keep out of that. But is Durant and Steph at this part of their careers, is that enough for them to challenge in the West? Because, I mean, Durant is they're both like, 35, 36? And someone, Egg Roll Trav mentioned here, Butler's 36 also. So wherever he goes, you're on borrowed time at this point. Steph is like, Steph is still must-see TV to me, in terms of he's one of the few players in the league where if I know I got the time and I'm sitting there, I'm going to watch Steph Curry play basketball. It's just fun to watch still. Putting him back with Durant at this part of their career might almost be like a redemption tour for Durant, almost in a certain extent, because it's not the same 73-9 team he joined. It's the 10th seed, 11th seed in the West that he's joining. It's a different type of story. If Durant and Curry got back together, would that work, or wouldn't that mess up the reason why Jimmy wants to go to Phoenix in the first place? Like, doesn't he want to go to play with Durant and those guys? Or
no, you're absolutely right. I don't think it would work in terms of elevating them into like a top 4 contender in the West. I mean, I still think Oklahoma City is better than them. I think Memphis is probably better than them. Dallas, Denver. Steph Curry and Kevin Durant combination in 2025 like sounds really good on paper, and that's like a ratings dream for the NBA. But when it comes to the playoffs, I don't think those two guys are going to carry you through 4 playoff rounds like it's 2016 again, right? Yeah. So no, I don't think it elevates them to a championship contender. I think it makes them better. I think if you can flip Kuminga for Kevin Durant, it's like, basically like the crux of that deal. Of course you do that, right?
Yeah, let's go.
You want Kevin Durant on your team. Even he's still playing at an All-NBA level in 2025, however, 34, 35, however old Kevin Durant is at this point.
Yeah, I think he's averaging like 26, 28 a game or something like that right now. He's still lighting it up.
Starter. Yeah. So it doesn't make them championship contenders, probably makes them better. And then, I don't understand the whole Jimmy Butler part of this, going to Phoenix without Durant there. So who knows?
Yeah, that just doesn't make any sense. Like, you might as well just stay in Miami if you were going to do that. Like, you're literally gutting the team to get there. And I don't think Jimmy understands that part, or he thinks he's more valuable than what he may actually be around the league.
Yeah.
When you burn so many bridges, these owners talk to each other. Like, they don't want to put on those problems unless they're a player away. And there's really only, I don't know, maybe 4 teams. They're like a handful, like a player away. And is that player Jimmy Butler? I don't know. So I would not be surprised if he's not moved and he has to sit here or something to that effect. Like, they just can't find a trade partner for him. I also wouldn't be surprised if he ends up in LA. Like, like if they end up, the Lakers pull some kind of crazy deal and they bring Jimmy Butler in to pair up with Luka and LeBron for this last year with LeBron or whatever, because they wouldn't be attached to Jimmy if they don't want to extend him.
Right.
Was it after this year? Is that when his extension's done? Or is it
has
2
a
years?
player option for next year.
So he could opt in.
Yeah, I think he could opt in for next year and then get extended after that.
So he could literally get traded to the Lakers, opt out of his deal. The Lakers decide not to sign him, and they clear that space, and they can start building around Luka. LeBron retires, and there you go. Like, you got Luka and a whole bunch of cap space and draft picks and all over the place, and you had a chance to make a little run with Jimmy, which would actually help defensively. If they got Jimmy for what they lost. I'm just spitballing here because I'm a Laker fan too, and I'm trying to figure out what they're doing. So I'm like, I don't think Luka and LeBron's enough. Like, they need a big man or something, a wing, somebody to kind of help out. But the NBA is crazy. Before I get you out of here, what are your thoughts on the new All-Star? I don't even know what to call it. Format. This like pickup game thing they're doing. Are you going to watch this? Because it feels like Saturday night's become the night to watch for All-Star Weekend instead of the actual game itself the past couple of years.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it. Just I always like the pageantry of the All-Star game. You see all these, like, all the best players in the league in the same place. It's always fun for me to at least tune in. I don't think it's going to save the All-Star game. I don't think it's going to get this huge ratings boost. It feels like they're reinventing the wheel, and they should probably just go back to East versus West, do the Elam ending like they did. I guess it was 2020 they did that right before COVID. The All-Star game was super competitive. But no, I mean, I'm going to watch it just because I love basketball and love watching those guys play, but it's not going to change anything.
Are you talking about the one where they had like the fixed score or whatever it was? Like, you had to get to 120 or whatever it was, and then once you got to a certain point, that was interesting. Really, we haven't really had a competitive All-Star game since Kobe Bryant was playing, to be honest, and he probably elevated that level of it. But you're right; they should just go back to traditional, either East-West, or do what the NHL did and do U.S. versus the world or whatever it is, where all the foreign players are on one team and the Americans are American-born players on the other team, and we'll just sit back for 2 hours and watch the American kids get spanked for the foreign players, because like Giannis is over there, Luka is over there. Like, I mean, like, everyone would be over there.
Shea, Jokic.
And like we'd have a 36-year-old Steph Curry, LeBron, KD, like literally the Olympic team. We just sent over there. It'd be them versus against the foreign players. But that might make it a little bit more interesting. Real quick before I let you go, has nothing to do with basketball. Of course, it's Super Bowl weekend. Every guest I've had on this week, I got to get their prediction. What is your prediction for Super Bowl 59 on Sunday? Eagles versus Chiefs, 6:30 on Fox. Who you got and why?
Yeah, Chiefs 31, the Eagles 27. I'm done betting against Pat Mahomes.
Me too.
I'm hesitant to say that he's the GOAT, but at this point, what he's doing at 29 years old, I mean, you can't bet against him. The Chiefs have an advantage at head coach, at defensive coordinator, and at quarterback. That's going to win. They're going to win games in the margins every single time, and Super Bowls are won in the margins. It's fairly easy for me to pick the Chiefs in this one.
I told Jonathan Stewart yesterday, we were making our predictions on Believe in Panthers, and I said 27-24 Chiefs, and they will win it on a missed field goal from the Eagles as time expires. And because I can just see them ahead. Field goal misses, red and white confetti falls down, players run out on the field. It's literally the way they've won every game this year, it feels like. So why expect anything different? Like, they started off the year winning by a toenail against Baltimore, and it's just carried all year long. What better way to finish the story and get a three-peat than to win off of the other team's error, which is kind of the way they kind of do things. Pat Mahomes is going to do Pat Mahomes stuff. I'm not taking the prop bet of Travis Kelce proposing to Taylor Swift at the 50-yard line if they win after the game or whatever, because that is a prop bet going on right now. And I'm like, I don't think that's going to go down. But I'm going to get Matt out of here and get you guys out of here. I'm making y'all late from lunch again, but it's okay. We'll have our Friday Super Bowl preview with Mike Smith and former NFL tight end Ben Troop from Winning the Division podcast later on this week on Friday. So for Matt Alquiza, this is Desmond Johnson. You've been watching and listening to the Desmond Johnson Show here on SPAC Road Sports Radio. Peace.